Goody morning on this Friday. Hard to believe, man, it's already Friday. Well, it is about 8 minutes till 10. I'm going to start some music. What I played yesterday by the Rollins, one of my favorite old groups. They're no longer singing, but Ron Martin and Miss Kyla and EQ. I've been friends with them for 35, 40 years, I guess. Back in the 80s when I was pastoring First Church. That's when I met them and started using them in New Hope. And so most of them gone to heaven except EQ. She's still alive, and bless her heart. Hey, Brother Gary. So I'm going to play some more of the Rollins this morning, and then we'll get started once everybody gets logged in. And here's one I love called He's Still on the Throne. And I sure am glad he is. Amen. He's on the throne. By the Rollins out of Morristown, Tennessee. Oh, yes, sing it. My brother's a king, the son of I am. Sometimes I forget to whom I belong. Then the sweet spirit cries, hey, Miss Leah, good to see you. Thank God he's still on the throne this morning, that's for sure. Nothing wrong. It is well with my soul. Hey, Brother Dwayne, hope you're doing good, buddy. Prayed for you this morning, last night, praying for you every day. Hope you're getting stronger. I'm saying, song while age is wrong. He's still on the throne. You know them, Brother Dwayne, the Rollins. You've been around them many times. I'm glad God is still on the throne. He's still on the throne. Thank God he is. Listen to this. Yes, he does. Hey, Brother AP, Brother Archie, good to see you. We're listening to the Rollins sing. He's still on the throne. There's times I give up and he walks over me. Oh, but listen. Then someone comes by. Thank God he's on the throne. Yes, he's still on the throne. There could be nothing wrong. It is well with my soul. Let the stormy winds blow. I'm reminded today. Praise God, I'm saved. Song while ages roll on, he's still on the throne, he's still on the throne. Just roll on. Well, I'm glad God's still on the throne. That's the Rollins. Here's another one by the Rollins called We'll Go Down Standing. Well, I'm not going to listen to J.P. Penney's. We've got to have these advertisements. I'm telling you, it's about got as bad on YouTube and internet as it is on TV. You can't play no music without advertising, but this one should be good right here. That ain't what I want. Let's see. Yeah, this is his son, Barry. I've heard of a land. We'll go down standing. Let's see how this sounds this morning. Is it good? Yeah, it's on. Okay, let's get it on here. Get some sound. There we go.
John the Baptist gave his life for the cause of Jesus Christ.
This is the son, Barry. This is Barry Rolling and Deliverance, another group with the Rolling family. I love this. My testimony. I'm going to go down standing.
We
Did you catch that? We may go down, but we'll go down standing up. I'm not turning in now. I'm not giving up. Hey, Miss Linda Key, good to see you. From over in High Point, Archdale, good to see you. Trinity. Amen. God bless you, sis. This is Barry Rowland. I'll go down standing up. I'm not giving up now. I've been too far in the race. We'll go down standing up. Sing it, girls. A bitter cup, come through with a sword, but I'll be standing with the Lord. We may go down, but we'll go down standing up. Those threats of death won't bother us. We'll say God is still enough. Still enough, we'll go down standing. Let's hear a little bit more of that. Let's try a little bit more. I like it so good. Let's play it again. Come on now, sing it, Barry. Upside down. A bitter cup may be spun through with a sword, but I'll be standing for the Lord. We may go down, but we'll go down standing up. Those threats of death won't bother us. We'll say God is still enough. We may go down, but we'll go down standing up. Well, glory, 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 glory. We may go down, but we're going to go down standing strong and standing up. Hey, Robin. Hey, Miss Amber. That was Ron Martin's son, Barry. Kyle's son, Barry. Barry Rowland. His mama was Kyle, one of my dearest friends. His uncle was Ron Martin, went home to be with the Lord yesterday. That's her son singing, we'll go down, but we're going to go down standing up. I've been serving the Lord since 1963. I've had a bunch of battles, got a bunch of scars, but still standing by the good grace of God. Good to see you, Miss Amy. Glad you're on here. Thank the Lord. It's a good morning, good day to be alive. Good to see you tuning in. This is the Preacher's Podcast. I'm Brother David Harrison, and you can tell I'm feeling pretty good this morning in the Lord. I got up this morning. Boy, my pain was so high. We have been bombarded all night with rain, wind, storms, and boy, my arthritis. I felt like somebody put me in the ring with Mike Tyson for about six rounds, but I got up and got some things done and praying and singing and got my shower and come in here and put those songs on by Ron Martin, and then I listened to Barry. And Lord of mercy, my spirit's picked up this morning. It's been a good morning. Hope you're having a good morning too. Couple things to tell you. If you haven't seen my Facebook page this morning, my new book dropped on Amazon this morning. People's already buying them. One lady just posted, she said, I just purchased it. I just bought 100. I got on this morning. My son does all that for me, and because we've got our account set up where you can get in and see what does what on Amazon, and I run everything through Voice of Hope, so when I'm dead and gone and in heaven, it'll still keep, the money will still keep preaching the gospel after I'm gone. Any royalties off the books and all. So he orders on my credit card information, debit card's already in there, but he just has to order them for me. So he did that, ordered 100 this morning, so mine will be here in about 7 or 8 days. But people's already ordered them, and I saw where some, if you order it, come online, if you order it, you get it the 23rd, so the day's the 20th. So if you order them, you get them in 3 days. So they're ready to go. My publisher said he thought it would drop this week. Hey, Miss Chris, and it's online now. $14.95. The new book on depression. Go get it. Go get it and get ready. We'll have a Zoom session coming up here as soon as we get all this done. I'll be announcing about a Zoom session for you to sign up. We'll be doing one session a week. We'll pick a day or a night, probably a night since most folks work in the daytime. We'll do one night a week for about 45 minutes to an hour. It'll be a Zoom call. You'll have to register. It won't cost anything. It'll be free. I've got a student guide to go with my book. I'll send to you as a digital copy. You copy it off, or you can put it on your pad so you can write and do answers. But it'd be best probably just to copy it off. It'll be about, I think it's 21-page guide. We'll cover every chapter. We'll talk about it, discuss it. That's going to be a Zoom call, depression sessions. And then I'm going to have a session set up somewhere locally in this area. Hope I can do it at my local church. So I've ordered 100 books to get started. And so people are starting to order. Order it today. Get it ordered. Get it to you. It's not a long book. It won't take you long to read. It's less than 100 pages. But it's full of good stuff. It's just probably the best book God's let me write. A lot of good information. My name is Depression. It will change your life. If you just go read the article that my publisher wrote and put on Amazon, it's amazing just how God's already using it. And so it's available. I've been talking about it for 6 weeks. I can't believe it. My wife and I were almost in tears when I hollered. I said, honey, my son sent me a message. He said, Dad, your book just dropped on Amazon. I pulled it up and I said, praise God. So we went ahead and ordered my part. I order author's copies. I have to order through Amazon. And, of course, I don't pay the same price that you do, when you buy. But I get author's copy. And so I ordered 100 this morning. So they'll be shipped out here in a couple of days. And I'll get them probably in the next 7 or 8 days. I think they said March the 3rd. But they're usually a little bit sooner than that. And since it's not a big book, it won't take long to print them. So I'm excited. And then I want to share something. You ladies, listen up before we start teaching. The topic we got on this week about standards and the dress codes and things like that, I went really far and I didn't give you any information. I talked about some books that I've used in the past. There's one book that I don't have a copy. I found the place that you order them from. They're $5. So I'm going to order a couple. My wife wants one and I want one. And, yeah, brother Archie, I'm going to meet with the pastor. It's going to take at least probably longer than 6 weeks, one night a week. I'd love to do it at the church, and I'd love you to be a part. I've got a leader's manual and student manuals. You could take and go through the session with me and be one of the leaders that if something happens to me and God calls me home, this is a tool to reach in our community. We can open it up to people that are lost, that deal with depression. What a great way to bring them into the church and witness to them and help them. So, yes, we're going to talk. And as soon as I meet with the pastor, we'll get together. Hey, Miss Joanna, but I do want to do one at the church to set up a session. I think we'd have probably 50 to 100 people sign up. And so I've got the student guide already drawn up. It's 18 pages. And the leader's guide, step by step, what to do, how to run a session, 45 minutes to an hour. All the questions, all the answers, discussing every chapter. It's already made out. I've done it all. And so all of this is already together. We've just been waiting on my book to get printed. So pray with me, Brother Archie, that God can help me get all this done. I get my books and I'll meet with the preacher probably before he leaves to go to India. And then we'll do it when he gets back. I'm hoping he'll let me, he's already said he would, take a Sunday. I'm going to set these 2 books up out in the foyer and make them available to the church. My biography, autobiography, as well as this book on depression. We'll set them up in the foyer and let folks buy them, and then we'll have the session already dated, and we'll get it ready to do sometime this spring, at the latest early summer. So I'm excited. A lot of things God's put together. I believe God's going to use this book to touch thousands of people. I've got it so set up that if a church wants to do it in their church in another part of the country, it'll be like the RU program. They can set it up and they can do it over and over again, do it a couple times a year, reach a new crowd every time, sign up, have folks come, teach them the sessions, go through the stuff, and use it as a witnessing tool to help people that aren't even in church. So I'm excited what God's going to do. So for you ladies, what we talked about a few days ago, we talked about that verse 26. We talked about the altar not to be on steps so it wouldn't expose a man's nakedness. And I talked about dress codes. Well, I'm not a legalist, but I've got some things for you ladies you may want to get. There's one on a place in Asheville. It's called Revival Literature, and it's called For Girls Only. I don't have a copy. I sold them on my table for years, but I don't have a copy. My wife don't have one either. And I sold hundreds of them. So I'm ordering them. They're only $5 each on Revival Literature. And Miss Sheila Doon, she was Dr. James Stewart, the great missionary to Scotland. She was Dr. James Stewart's daughter. And she wrote this book For Girls Only. It's a great book, probably one of the best ones I've ever read. I'll get one, but you can look it up on Revival Literature in Asheville, North Carolina, and look for Miss Sheila Doon, For Girls Only. It's on their website, and you can order it for $5. Here's one my wife brought out, and we got this years ago. This is from Kathy Murray on Modesty, a Matter of the Heart. Modesty, a Matter of the Heart. It's just, I don't know, it's probably 60, yeah, it's 80 pages, just a little booklet. Here's one on Miss Kathy Coral, her husband Dennis Coral, the great evangelist. This is What in the World Should We Wear? This is by Kathy Coral. What in the World Should We Wear? And then this is one also by Kathy Coral on the Heart of a Handmaiden, talking about ladies, the things of the heart that make the outside look like the inside. A great book by Miss Kathy Coral. And then here's an old one that's on the Sword of the Lord. Miss Elizabeth Hanford Rice, which was John R. Rice's daughter. He had 8 daughters, and Miss Elizabeth Rice, I knew her. She spoke at some of our Sword of the Lord Joyful Women's Jubilees. Years ago, we had ladies' meetings. She spoke at several of our meetings. I've met her, heard her. I've been with her. Mrs. Rice and I were good friends. Miss Rice came to hear me preach every time I was in the Murfreesboro area. Well, this is her daughter, Miss Elizabeth Hanford Rice, and this is an old book called Your Clothes Say It For You. This was written probably back in the 60s or 70s. And so this is a good book, hardback. You can buy it from the Soul of the Lord. I think it's still in print. Yeah, this was 1976. Soul of the Lord Publishers in Murfreesboro. And so there's 4 books, and then the one I don't have on Revival Literature on For Girls Only. That's a good book. It talks to young girls, but it really is a help for older ladies, starting with their kids, grandkids, and even for themselves. So that's some stuff will help you. Hope it'll be a blessing. Now we're in Exodus chapter 22. It's been a good morning. Hey, Miss Darlene, hope you're healing up. Hope you're getting better. Hey, Claudia, good to see you. So we're in Exodus 22. Now, I want to say this, and we're going to go through this pretty quick unless God gets us bogged down somewhere that I need to deal with something. Chapter 22 and chapter 23, for the most part, some would say is kind of boring. Because this is basically, these are just laws of how to deal with people in society, laws concerning crimes against humanity. These are just basically things, how you handle situations of a thief breaking in or somebody harming some of your livestock or somebody harming one of your children. I mean, it's just a lot of basic rules and legislation and justice between people. So it's kind of, and some of it doesn't sound a lot like today's society because the Mosaic Law was a lot more, I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, you'll see it as we go through. Yes, Miss Darlene, I guess you are moving kind of slow, but I hope you are healing up and getting better after surgery. Been praying for you every day, so at least you're able to listen and watch. Hope I've been encouragement to you this morning. So let's start in chapter 22, verse 1. Chapter 22, verse 1. If a man shall steal an ox or a sheep and kill it or sell it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. Now, this is just basic restitution. These are laws of restitution. God says if you steal an ox or steal a sheep, and you kill it or you sell it, whatever you do. If you take something that's not yours and you kill it for your own use, or you sell it and use the money. Then for ox, you're to give 5 oxen for 1 ox, and for sheep, 4 sheep for 1 sheep. Now somebody asked me, why 5 oxen for 1 ox and 4 sheep? I don't know, but oxen were probably more valuable. Now, the sheep provided meat, and the sheep provided wool, but the oxen was more valuable because of the work they was able to do. The oxen were put in yokes and worked the fields, whereas sheep just grazed and gave wool a couple times a year. And then they also killed wolves for sacrifices as well as for eating. If you ever had lamb, I like lamb. It's not my favorite meat, but I love lamb, roast lamb, lamb chops. I've had lamb chops. I've eaten in several homes when I was in evangelism of people that raise sheep, and they said, "You ever had lamb?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You like it?" I said, "It's okay if it's fixed good." I said, "You know me, I like anything." And so I've had some good lamb. I've had some bad lamb. Of course, I've had some bad beef and pork too. Some folks just don't know how to cook. Some folks would mess up a candy bar. So, but anyway, that's another story for another day. But the oxen, 5 for an ox and 4 for a sheep. So this is basic restitution. So it's pretty simple. That's why I say some folks say this part's boring, because it's things that we would just take for granted, just simple restitution for things done wrong. Verse 2, if a thief be found breaking up, in other words, if he's breaking in your house or breaking in a house, and you smite him and he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. What that simply means, this is the law of self-defense. You ought to put that beside verse 2, right? Self-defense. If somebody is breaking in a home and you smite him and he dies, there's no blood to be shed for him. You don't have to ask a judge, for mercy, because in most cases they're laws of self-defense. There's a lot of different laws in different states for somebody breaking in your home. If it's a matter of life and death, you can shoot, defend yourself, but make sure it's inside. Most always say make sure they're inside your house. That makes it more realistic that they're breaking in and putting you in danger. If somebody were breaking in, I would try to stop them. I probably wouldn't first try to kill them. But if they had a weapon and they were coming in and nothing else I could do but shoot them to be fatal to stop them, I would do that. I wouldn't want to, but I would. That's the law of self-defense, and God made that very clear. Hey, Miss Judy Higgins, from down in the Landis area. My, boy, good memories with your family, Jimmy, and of course we ain't going to talk about Ronnie and Susan. God help them. Susan, I love her, but Ronnie, he's a nut. So no, don't tell him I said that. Ronnie and I worked together, and that's how, I guess, your whole family got in churches, through me witnessing to Ronnie and getting him and Susan in church, and the whole family got in Landis. And I'm just thrilled every time I see y'all's name. Think about the good memories of how God let us be together. So anyway, this is the law of self-defense. Exodus chapter 22 and verse number 2. Somebody breaks in your house. If you smite them and they die, there's no bloodshed because of that. You don't have to go to jail, or, you don't have to worry about shedding any blood. It was self-defense. Verse number 3. If the sun be risen upon him, there be no bloodshed for him, for he should make full restitution. If he have nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. So basically, if he breaks in and he doesn't die, then he's to make full restitution for what he sold. If there's no bloodshed for him, if you don't kill him, if his life is not taken for what he did, he just has to make full restitution for what he's taken. And that may be just like 4 sheep for 1. It may be not thing for thing, item for item. It may be 4 times replacing, or 10 times what you stole, you may replace 10 times over. Whatever the judges in that day would recommend. So verse number 4, if the thief be certainly found in his hand alive, whether it be an ox, an ass, a sheep, he shall restore double. So if you catch the guy with the stuff in his hands, like if he's got a couple oxen he's leading, or a couple sheep, and they're in his hands, and you catch him alive, then he's to restore double. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not just item for item. So whatever they decide in this case, it would be double, restore double. So verse 5, if a man shall cause a field or a vineyard to be eaten, and shall put in his beast, and shall feed in another man's field, of the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard, shall he make restitution. In other words, you can't turn your cows loose in another man's pasture. Or if your cows get loose and eat up another man's cornfield, or get in your wheat crop, or get over in your garden where your vegetables are, then the owner of that oxen or cow or sheep have got to restore everything out of their own land, out of their own goods. Restore everything, make restitution. Verse 6, if a fire break out and catch in thorns, so that the stacks of corn or the standing corn or the field be consumed therewith, he that kindled the fire shall surely make restitution. This is simple stuff. So if I start a fire in my back 40, I've got some trash I'm burning, some limbs and some underbrush, and the wind catches it and it gets into another man's field and destroys his crops and destroys some of his field. I have to make full restitution. That's my responsibility. It's my responsibility. A couple of years ago, we had a bad storm in where my line is with the next man over. There's a lot of trees right on our line and right across in his land. There's some trees that lean over toward my property, and I knew that one tree was going to fall sooner or later. Well, the storm blew it over, and it fell right in my backyard, and it didn't hurt anything, just made a mess. So I was going to cut it up, but it was back when I was dealing with cancer, and I just wasn't strong enough. So I was trying to find somebody to come help me. I was going to and he finally saw it. He owns a business, and he doesn't pay attention much about what goes on around here. So he finally knocked on my door one day, and he said, I hate the tree fell in your backyard. Hey, Melissa, good to see you. And he said, I didn't know it'd fallen. I said, yeah, it fell about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago in that bad storm. He said, man, I hate it. He said, I'm going to get it up. I said, well, I'm going to get somebody. No, he said, that's on my land. He said, it should have already been cut because it was leaning. But he said, I got a guy that does work for me. And he said, he'll bring his stuff and he'll remove it and clean it up and won't be anything left. So just about 2 days, guy come with his chainsaw and with his loaders and his big mulching machines, how they do trees and all. And within about an hour and a half, it was all gone. So that was his responsibility. It was on his land, but he affected my property. So these are the kind of laws that Moses is given. So verse number 7, if a man shall deliver unto his neighbor money or stuff to keep, and it be stolen out of the man's house, if the thief be found, let him pay double. So if I say, I give a man, look, I got some money, and I'm going to be gone on a trip and a journey for a couple weeks, and could you keep it for me and watch it? And while I'm gone, somebody breaks in his house and steals it. If they catch the thief, then of course the thief is to restore double to me. But in verse number 8, if the thief be not found, then the master of the house shall be brought to the judges to see whether he have to put his hand unto his neighbor's goods. In other words, if we don't find the thief, then they're going to bring me to the judges and the other man, and we're going to discuss, am I going to have to take some things from this man to get what I had stolen back in my possession, to reimburse me for what I lost? And the judges will decide, verse number 9. For all manner of trespass, whether it be for ox, ass, sheep, or raiment, or for any manner of lost thing, which another challenge to be his, the cause of both parties shall come before the judges, and whom the judges shall condemn, he shall pay double to his neighbor. So any matters that come up, trespass, whether it's issue of any type of animals, livestock, something that somebody lost, or somebody challenges, that's mine, that's my axe, that's my horse, that's my sheep. That's an old wagon I used to have, and it was back here in my barn. What are you doing with it? So it'll come to the judges, and the judge will decide who's going to pay, whose it is. Kind of like what Solomon did when the woman had the baby. That wasn't hers, she stole it. So the judges decide who gets what, Verse 10, if a man deliver unto his neighbor an ass, an ox, or a sheep, or a beast to keep, and while that man's got it, it dies, verse 10, or be hurt, or be driven away, no man seeing it, nobody sees it, but while this man's keeping my sheep or my animal, it gets hurt, or it runs away, or it dies, nobody saw it, verse 11, then shall an oath of the Lord be between both of them, that he hath not put his hand into his neighbor's goods, and the owner of it shall accept thereof, and he shall not make it good. In other words, both men, if I give somebody an animal to keep, and something happens to the animal, he gets sick or he dies or he just strays away, and nobody saw it, the man that was keeping it for me didn't know what happened, I didn't see it, so we go before a judge, and both of us take an oath before a judge. That judge, I gave it to him, I didn't see what happened, and the man says, yeah, I took it, I had it in my barn, don't know what happened, it must have broke loose. I've looked for it and couldn't find it. They both take an oath. Basically, both of them shake hands and said, look, it's just one of those things we can't help. Nobody pays anybody. It's just the laws. Because that could have been in the owner's barn, and it could have got loose just as easily. So it's really not the other man's fault. It just happened. It could have died in his barn, as well as the guy that was keeping it for it. So it's just being fair. It's just restitution. It's just simple. What do you do when something happens between two people? How do you resolve it? So verse 11. If it be stolen from him, he shall make restitution unto the owner thereof. Now somebody steals it while he's got it. Somebody steals it. Then the guy that was keeping it has to make restitution. I'm not sure what the difference is. If it just dies, it dies. If it gets loose, it gets loose because it's the animal's fault. But if somebody steals it, then the guy that's keeping it has to make restitution. This is the law, verse 13. If it be torn in pieces, then let him bring it for a witness, and he should not make good that which was torn. So if something happens in the piece of raiment, I let somebody borrow one of my outfits, and somebody stole it and tore it all to pieces, they bring what they find for a witness, and it'll not be made good. It don't have to. Somebody damaged it. If a man borrow aught of his neighbor, and it be hurt or die, or the owner thereof being not with it, he shall surely make it good. So it's just a lot of, what do you do if you lend something or you borrow something, it dies, it runs away, somebody steals it? There's different laws for different circumstances. Verse number 15. But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be a hired thing, it came for his hire. So that's just basic stuff. Excuse me. Basic stuff between neighbors over items that may get lost or hurt or die. So now, like I said, this is kind of a humdrum, basic, restitutional, institutional legislation. So verse 16, now let's move on. We don't have much further to go in this chapter. If a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, a girl that's not engaged or not married, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife. So if a man entice a maid, and this implication, if I'm correct here, I believe this implication is if he rapes her. I believe that's what this means. Let me see to make sure. Yes. In other words, if a man rapes a girl, he should be forced to marry her. That's what J. Vernon McGee says. So this word entice in the Hebrew doesn't mean like he's just talking to her and winking, saying, hey, baby, how about spending some time with me? No, he rapes her. It's a forced relationship. So because of that, then, the girl's father makes certain that says you have to marry her. She's not already wed to somebody else or not already engaged. Verse 17. But this is up to the father. That is, if the father agrees. But verse 17 puts a but. If her father utterly refuse to give her unto him, he shall pay money according to the dowry of virgins. So if his daughter gets raped and he agrees, the dad agrees, then that guy's got to marry her and take care of her. But if the dad says the guy's a jerk, he's an irresponsible jerk, I don't want him nowhere near my daughter again, then he says she's got to pay the dowry of what someone would pay if her son were marrying somebody else's daughter. They put a dowry, which was almost like some type of, not a down payment, but it's a bunch of gifts and stuff to seal the deal of the engagement, a dowry. So it could be horses, cattle, money, but whatever. This guy that raped her is going to pay a bunch of money to the girl's daddy, rightfully so. I think he ought to cut his head off, shoot him. But this is the law of Moses. Verse 18. Somebody agree with me? Say, man, no, I wouldn't want to marry my rapist. No, you're right, Miss Amy. But this is what Moses' law said. Verse 18. Now, I'm going to read this, and don't take this loosely. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Now, whenever you read this, I'm going to say most, it has changed some, but through most of my ministry, if you were to bring up the subject of witches, most people in the church, or most people in a church, would laugh at you and downplay it and say, well, there ain't no witches now. You know, go back to the witches of Salem, all the stuff that was done wrongfully, accusing people of witches. Yeah, brother AP, he'd be done for, buddy. That guy'd be done for. But it's happening more so in today's world. Witchcraft and Satanism is a reality. And there are a lot of people in our world that practice witchcraft. And God put a judgment. If a woman is a witch, she wasn't allowed to live. She was to be put to death. This is back in the days of Israel. People that were witches. You remember the witch of Endor that came to Saul wanted to see the prophet Samuel. He had died. He wanted to see the prophet Samuel. And the witch was startled when the spirit of that one she saw and spoke to him, and she was surprised because she don't have the ability to raise people from the dead and bring spirits from the dead. Hey, Miss Becky Luther, my wife and I was just talking about you the other day, how much of a blessing you've been. I pray for you. Sure do love you, sis. I hope you're doing well. I know you have a lot of physical problems. Hang in there. Heaven's not far away. Maybe me and you will sit on the side of the bank of the river and sing a little bit. If God will let me have a guitar or a piano, I'll play and you sing. How about that? Sing Justified or His Eyes on the Sparrow. That's two of my favorites of yours. I get shy when I see people join my podcast. I have to say hey to them, so just overlook me. I'm just an old dumb preacher. So God said the witches were not supposed to live. They're not suffer witch to live. And witches are still a reality today. And a lot of this Epstein stuff, this Epstein file, a lot of this stuff is going on in the name of witchcraft, Satanism, and the occult. It's real. It's not just fake. This is not Hollywood. This is not fairy tale land and fantasy. This is not Dorothy in Kansas and the Good Witch of the East and the witch. Help me! I'm melting. No, it's not that. This is not that kind of stuff. This is not the Wizard of Oz stuff. This is real witches, and I know it's real because I've dealt with them. I'll tell this story. Back years ago when I was preaching to young people in crusades, I had a crusade in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. When I used to do the rock message and it had stuff about Satanism and how many of the groups, the heavy metal, black metal groups were involved in Satanism, and there was subliminal messages all through their albums and some even under the paper label of the albums and all kinds of subliminal stuff, pentagrams and whatever. And so I had a group an album by the name of the group Uriah Heep. And the name of the album was Abominok. And on the cover of that album was this big blood-sucking demon. That was the album cover. And it was on my slides that I showed in my presentation. And the place was full. And when I got to that slide, the devil was fighting. Man, I felt the oppression of hell. Kids were under conviction and parents were absolutely about ready to puke. It was just the stuff is so wicked. But God was working. And when I showed that slide and began to talk about this picture of a demon and how that Timothy Leary, who invented LSD, the father of LSD, he said that on LSD, men were able to see the fifth dimension, go into realms that you could see things that they normally couldn't see. That's why the visions and all this Hollywood stuff depicting all these demons and spiritual beings, you wonder, they look real to us. They say, how could you come up with that? Well, it's not their imagination. They're seeing things beyond the realm of reality into the spirit world because the drugs, and it's in the Bible, the word pharmacia is in the book of Revelation. In the end times, Satan's going to use pharmacia, drugs, to help promote his kingdom. So Satan has used drugs to help men that are wrapped up in his kingdom to be able to see the spirit world and worship Satan and talk to demons and so forth and so on. So I showed this slide, and when I did, this young girl, probably maybe 18, 19, she screamed and ran out of the building as fast as she'd go. Well, one of my preachers, as a matter of fact, the preacher that his wife just had a stroke, he was there. He was one of the main preachers involved in this. And he and his wife went out the door after her because they knew her. They'd invited her. She had visited the church a couple times. And they got out with her, and she was trembling. She was white as a sheet. Her skin was clammy. And so the service ended, and the preacher came in and said, I need you to come back to the room, preacher, back here in my office. He said, that girl's back there, called her name. And I went back to her, and I got in there, and she was still shaking. She was white as a sheet. And I said, ma'am, what's wrong? I said, sis, what's wrong? She said, where did you get that picture? I said, what picture? She said, you showed it on the slides. She says, I know him. I said, what are you talking about? She said, that last picture before I ran out, that picture. I said, oh, the one on the album by Uriah Heep called Abominable. She said, I know him. I said, ma'am, that's just a picture. She said, no. She said, he's been in my room. She said, I've conjured him up. She said, I was with a witches' coven here in Winston-Salem. She said there were 13 of us girls that were witches, and so we had a warlock that was over the coven. And she said, I've been in my room many times and did incantations and she called him by name. It wasn't Abominog, but she called him by name and said, he showed up in my room many times. She said, when you showed his picture, she said, it scared me to death. Well, it was just a picture off an album. So this stuff is real. Witchcraft and Satanism is real. And God made it very clear in the life of Israel that witches are not allowed, not anywhere in your camp. And if you come in contact with a witch, the best thing you can do is kill her. Now that sounds, in today's world, we'd be called murderers and we'd be called right-wing conspiracy theorists, but it's true. And I've had witches come to my services, more than I can tell. I had one came to the first church I pastored in Salisbury, and she said in the service, she came 2 Sundays, and she never came back. I had to pray and fast, and you're talking about rebuke. Man, I was preaching, and she's sitting back there looking up, doing incantations the whole time. And she tried to talk to me at the service, and I had some men with me. I said, don't you leave me. I had 2 men. I said, everywhere I go, you stay with me. She comes straight to me after service and wanted to talk to me. In my office, I said, no, ma'am, I don't have time. I said, probably be best if you'd leave. She said, I just need to talk. I said, no. I said, I don't have time. Thank you for coming. Be best for you to leave. She came back twice, then she never came back again. I've had them show up in crusades. I've had them cast spell. I mean, it's just, I won't go into all that. But it is real. And God gave scripture on it. So let's go on. I don't want to deal with this. You're talking about wicked. That's wicked stuff. Hey, DR, love you, son. So, but it is real. It said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. And that stuff is real. This stuff that we're seeing now come out. This is not fairyland stuff. This is not Hollywood. This is real satanic cult witchcraft. Offering sacrifice. I told my wife the other day, we was talking about this. This is as old as time. Killing these babies and all the stuff they're doing to young girls and young boys. This is not new. This is Baal worship and Moloch. That's all this is. The same gods that Israel dealt with, Moloch and Baal. It's all through the Bible. Offered their children in the fire to Moloch and to Baal. This is the same stuff. It happened 4,000 years ago. It's still happening. So, listen, there's two dangers. There's 2 dangers of believing what's not true or not believing what is true. What do you mean, preacher? The danger is sometimes of believing what's not true. That somebody tells you a bunch of stuff that's not true and you believe it. Falsehoods, fake stuff. Telling you something that's real that's not real, you believe that. That's a danger, believing stuff that's not true. But it's just as oppositely just as dangerous for you not to believe what is true. You shouldn't see a demon behind every bush. But to deny the reality of the work of Satan in this generation is dangerous. So let's go on, verse number 19. And I don't even want to deal with this. I'm going to mention it and go on. It's happening. It's a reality. It's sickening. It's wicked as hell. But I'm just going to mention it and go on. Now, whosoever lieth with the beast shall surely be put to death. Bestiality, sex and relationships with animals has always been since the beginning of time. It's wicked, it's perverted, and God says you're to be put to death. That's all I'm going to say. God help us. America's a cesspool. Verse 20. He that sacrifice unto any god, save unto the Lord only, he shall utterly be destroyed. If you offer sacrifices to another god beside Jehovah, God says you should be destroyed. Idol worship. If that happened today, a large portion of the world would no longer exist. And a god don't have to be a statue. It don't have to have a deity name. It don't have to be the sun god Ra. It don't have to be the Greek gods Thor. It don't have to be Muhammad or Allah. It don't have to be Confucius or some other false religion's god. The gods of materialism, the gods of money, the gods of self, the gods of power. If you worship another god beside Jehovah, he said you'll be destroyed. Oh, dear Lord Jesus. God, I get sick every time I study this stuff. Because I realize as a nation, we are right where Israel was when God made them a nation, and they dealt with this stuff all through their history. Thousands of years later, mankind hasn't changed. I'll say this again. I sat in my chair again last night, and my wife and I were talking. As we do every night, we talk and discuss stuff. Every morning, every night. Things are quiet here. We talk and share. And I made the statement again. I said, I truly understand what God did, why he did it, and how God must have felt when he said in Genesis 6, I repent that I even made man. I get it. Just what I've seen. Now, I've not, the stuff that's going on now, like the Epstein files and all this stuff in Hollywood, adrenochrome, people drinking the blood and urine and other things mixed for worship purposes. They take a child, adrenochrome is a chemical that they produce by taking a child that is being tormented and tortured and at the highest point of fear and torment, when the adrenaline of that child is reaching its peak, and they drain blood out of that child during that tormenting fear and mix it with other things, other drugs, other chemicals, urine and things, just perverted stuff, and it produces a chemical they call adrenochrome. They refer to it in all of their text messages and emails, they refer to it as grape juice or grape drink. That's adrenochrome. And it's supposed to give them youth, to make them younger. It's supposed to make them healthy. It's supposed to bring them power and money, wealth. And I'm not so sure that it don't. But it's not in the adrenochrome. It's in the vows and commitment they're making to Satan, who's behind that. Satan has power. I've met young boys that were in cultic groups that said that their rock band was success. I had one group I met with that he said when we made our first album, said we took it to basically it was a witch's coven and had them sanctify it and pray the power of Satan be in that album, that every person that bought it, the power would come out of it. This is not something I've read. These are things that I have in person dealt with people. I've dealt with young boys that sold their soul to Satan, branded 666 on their arms or somewhere on their body. As one young boy told me, he said, I can't ever be saved because I've got branded 666, child of Satan. And he says he joined the club to fit in. He lived on the streets from the time he was a boy. He used to steal to support the drug habits of his mother, grandmother, and his sister. From the time he was 10 years old, he lived on the streets. He joined this group at 14 to have a place to fit in. They partied, gave him money. He was wealthy, successful, living on the street, had everything he wanted. But he said he left the group when he was 17. He left the group and they took his best friend and laid him on a stone slab, an altar, cut him open from his belly button to his throat, pulled out his liver and his heart, passed it around, took a bite out of it. Praise Satan. He watched him kill his best friend. in that group. And a preacher friend of mine picked him up on the highway, hitchhiking, brought him to my crusade. That boy got saved. He told me all this. I've got the letter in my files that he wrote me, explained everything that he went through. And this is not stuff I've made up. And the Bible deals with this from the beginning, and it's happening in our nation now. I'm not going to, because I'm too old, I'm too tired, and I don't have a platform to preach it. And I'm not going to study it and research it. My son is researching all this stuff happening to children, and I'm worried about him and praying for him because I know what he's going to go through. I haven't been through that. That's why you see me at 70. The physical problems I have is because of the hell I've fought for 50 years exposing Satan. Even what I'm saying today is going to cost me. I know that. I already sense it. Satan's already upset. But I don't have to study this stuff now. What I'm seeing in my 50-some years of ministry, I can't ever unsee. It's in my mind. I've gotten rid of most of the files. I've destroyed most of that stuff. I still have some stuff. But I had probably $250,000 worth of albums, books, paraphernalia, stuff given to me from all over the world. I helped write a manual, police manual for training police officers in the academy on signs and symbols, colors, and tattoos is the name of the book. I did the signs and symbols, and the other lieutenant did colors and tattoos. He was a gang specialist, and I specialized in satanic symbols and signs and symbols. Could find them on materials, albums, whatever. He took all my materials and put them with his. I went through training. I went through 3-day training. Dr. What was his name? From Fayetteville, North Carolina. I can see his face. Anyway, he came from Fayetteville, North Carolina to Salisbury, and the sheriff of our county invited me to sit in the training session because I was a chaplain. I was the North Carolina Chaplaincy Society. I was a member, still am. And I went through the training sessions. And so I saw this stuff, and I studied it for years. And I don't know how I got off on this, but this stuff of witchcraft, bestiality, sacrifice, all this is satanic. And all of it's real today. And it's in our nation. And it will be the downfall of our nation. Believe me, it was Israel. Let's go on and finish the chapter. I may not get to talk about it, but let's read it. Verse number 21. Let's see. Yeah, verse 21. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. So it's how to treat strangers. Don't be mean to strangers. Don't vex them. Don't be mean to them, because you were a stranger when you was in Egypt. Verse 22. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. Be good to widows and orphans. Basic, common sense stuff. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I'll surely hear their cry. So if you mess with the widows, you mess with the orphans, then they're going to cry to me, and I'm going to hear them, and you're going to be in trouble. And my wrath shall wax hot, and I'll kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. Don't mess with widows and orphans. If you do, they'll cry to me, and I'll hear them, and I'll kill you, and your children will be orphans, and your wife will be a widow. That's pretty strong. But God loves widows and orphans. God loves poor people. Verse 25. If thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as a usurer, neither shall thou lay upon him usury. If you lend money to a poor man, don't charge him interest. You're not going to be a usurer to him. You're not going to lay a 20% interest repayment. Loan him 100, you give me 120 back. You don't do that. You let him borrow the money if he's poor. You don't beat him as a usurer. You're not working like a lending company. You loan him the money and you don't charge him any interest. Verse 26. If thou and all take thy neighbor's raiment to pledge, thou shalt deliver it to him, by that the sun goes down. If you take a man's coat as a pledge for something, before the sun goes down, you give it back to him. Okay? Simple stuff. For that is his covering only. You don't take a man's coat as a pledge to repay a debt. Before the sun goes down, you give it back to him, because that's his only coat. It's his raiment for his skin. Wherein shall he sleep? And it shall come to pass when he crieth unto me that I'll hear, and I'm gracious. If you don't get his coat back to him, I'm going to hear his cry, and I'm gracious. And I'm gracious. Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. So you don't talk bad about your king and ruler. You don't curse your ruler. Don't curse the president. Don't curse the king. God tells us to pray for those in authority, not curse them. May not like them, may not agree with them, but you don't curse them. Verse 29. Thou shalt not delay to offer the first of thy ripe fruits, of thy liquors, the firstborn of thy sons, shalt thou give unto me. So God's talking now about giving the first fruits. This is basically tithing. Whatever I bless you with, the first fruits belong to him. Verse 30. Likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen, thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam. On the 8th day thou shalt give it to me. So when a new lamb is born, stays with his mama for 7 days, on the 8th day you give it to me. It's mine. The first fruits. If you got a brand new sheep, and she has her first little ewe, you keep it 7 days, and on the 8th day it's mine. That's the first fruits. Verse 30. Verse 31. And ye shall be holy being unto me, neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beast in the field. You shall cast it to the dogs. He said, and you're to be holy. If you find an animal that's been ripped apart by another beast, in other words, if you find a possum laying in the middle of the road, or a rabbit that's been hit by a wagon, you don't eat that. If you find something, the dogs drug up somebody else's chicken, you don't eat that. You give it to the dogs. I know some of y'all like roadkill. A good old possum roadkill biscuit's good once in a while, but God says you're supposed to be holy. So if you're going to be holy, you can't eat possum that you run over. You got to shoot it with a gun. I got to laugh because I got off on that stupid, wicked, evil stuff. So that's chapter 22. Chapter 22. Just basic stuff. Not a whole lot we can apply to today because it's pretty simple, pretty plain. But let me foretell. Now this is Friday. We won't be back until Monday. But let me tell you something really important. Don't miss next week. When we get to chapter 24, 25, we start dealing with the tabernacle. Now, we're going to deal more with the tabernacle in the feast in Leviticus, but we're going to mention it in Exodus. But we get to the tabernacle, there's so many types, it's going to be so good. It's going to get gooder and gooder. I know that ain't English, but it's going to get gooder and gooder. And you don't want to miss next week, because we're going to get into chapter 24. We got chapter 23 to go through. Chapter 24 and 25 starts on the tabernacle. So much good stuff. It's going to probably take us all week to get through those two chapters. So don't miss it. Remember, I wish I had a copy. I may order one today and see if I can get it in Monday. But I wish I had a book to show you. My book on depression it dropped this morning on Amazon. Order your copy today. I ordered 100 copies, but it'll be probably 7 or 8 days before I get mine because I ordered 100. But you can order yours. I looked on mine today. I can order one and have it February the 23rd, which would be Monday. See, 21st, yeah, Monday. I can order it today and get it Monday. So I'm going to order one and go ahead and get one I can show. But order yours today. And then once you get it ordered, once I get my books in, we're going to set up a Zoom call to do a set of sessions on depression. I'll send you the student guide on your email so you can have it to go by, copy it off so you can write. I'll have those available. We'll do a session on live Zoom, probably 12 weeks, once a week for 12 weeks, and then we're going to do one at the church. I saw Brother AP texting me while I was talking. I think he's done talk to the pastor. We're going to set up one at the church, and so things are in motion. I'm excited, but check it out today. Ladies, don't forget, if you want some of these books, if you didn't get the names of them, this one is the Soul of the Lord's book. On your clothes, say it for you. These two books by Sister Kathy Cole, C-O-L-E. This is Heart of a Handmaiden. This one is What in the World Should We Wear? And this one is Modesty of the Heart by Kathy Murray. So these are 4, and there's one on revival literature out of Asheville called For Girls Only. 5 books that deal with what we talked about this week on modesty. So if you still don't get the titles, let me know. I can send them to you. Thank you so much for watching today. It's been a good day. I love you all. Pray that God blesses you, gives you a good weekend. Don't forget my book's on Amazon. Get your copy ordered today. You can have it within a couple of days. $14.95. And as soon as you get your copy, if you want to consider being a part of our Zoom call, I'll give you information in a couple weeks about that, and I'll send you your copy of the student guide, and you can have it to go along with us in the sessions. Love you all. Thank you so much. Have a good day, and we'll see you, Lord willing, Monday, if not before.